on the Worldwide Coalition Radio Network here at the Go Local Live Media Broadcast Center, 98 Boston Street in the heart of the city we love. La Prave, the naked city, the city of 1,000 stories. Although seemingly this week, Rhode Island seemed to have millions of them, waiting to be told. CoalitionRadio.us, Facebook.com/Coalition Radio, on the mighty Twitter at Coalition_Radio. These and all other shows live in perpetuity on our YouTube page. It can be accessed from the YouTube link at the top of CoalitionRadio.us. I think we've got 400, 500, 600 guests on tonight in the space of about 3 to 4 hours. Joe's supposed to laugh at that. But we're going to get right down to it. The state of Rhode Island has had the luxury, if you will, I'll use the Coalition Radio air quotes of that, over the last year or so, of several special elections. A number of state legislators in the last year or two have decided to remove themselves from the fray, the Sturm and Drang of Rhode Island politics. I can't imagine why. Tonight we're going to have a number of folks who are running for office, as well as an individual, Kate Dinamo, who is a internationally known expert, community organizer, philosopher, and academic in the world of sex worker rights, as we continue our coverage of FOSTA and SESTA. But with regards to our local politicians, tonight we'll have Republican, left of center Democrat, independent-leaning Republican. All of these folks, as we enter the quote-unquote silly season, are heroes in my eyes. There's a rare level of patriotism, regardless of your political affinity, that takes place when you choose to run for public office, particularly in the year 2018. You expose you and your family to really an open book style of living. Everything you've ever done, said, thought about, emailed, tweeted, texted, whatever, suddenly becomes open for public discussion. Your finances are open, wide open, both to the state of Rhode Island, as well as any individual looking to make a point. And should you win, then you're faced with the prospect of potentially years of under or unpaid public service, the long hours, the meetings, the candidacy requirements, the ongoing fundraising necessary in order to maintain that near volunteer status in public service. Most of the people in the state of Rhode Island do it for the right reason. They do it to improve the quality of life for both themselves, their families, and the communities for whom many have a significant investment in, not financially, but morally and philosophically. In many cases, those families have lived in that neighborhood, that community for generations. Some of those families trace back to the founding fathers, if you will, of Rhode Island itself. So we have a couple ground rules when we talk to candidates. Number one, I'm not interested in your fundraising. I'm not interested in your polls. I'm not interested in any of the handicapping that seems to obsess Rhode Island media. The coalition is and always will be different as long as I'm at the helm. Quite simply, I don't want to know if you're going to win. I want to know why you should. And the coalition will always serve as a format for folks to express without the egotistical underpinnings of a narcissistic host, that would be me, without interruption, without gotcha moments, the opportunity and a long style format conversation to elaborate on what his or her plans are, if elected, and how they would impact the lives of everyday, hardworking, somewhat challenged Rhode Islanders. Remember, we are outrage porn-free, civilly disobedient media. So it is my great privilege, as we begin really the dive now into a special election, which is really the harbinger for the election season in general, to have for the very first time, gentlemen, I had the distinct pleasure of meeting late night at a hearing.
Yes, very late.
At a high school, which is where really that's where civic life in Rhode Island really takes place. Of course, I'm talking about Nathan Luciano. He is the Senate GOP nominee for the 8th Senate District in the state of Rhode Island.
Yes.
Again, the subject of a special election due to the prior senator deciding to resign for personal reasons.
Yes.
Nathan, welcome to the coalition.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me today.
No, this, as they say, is great.
Yes.
Tell me about your connection to Pawtucket.
So, I am a lifelong Rhode Islander. I have, obviously, I love the state. Grew up in the state. My wife and I bought our first house in Pawtucket over 7 years ago. So we have definitely gone in, planted down roots. We love our neighborhood, we love our community, and it wasn't shortly after that we moved to Pawtucket is when I started getting involved in local politics within Pawtucket. So it has been a great experience. One night, a wonderful gentleman came knocking at my door as he saw that I voted in a few elections and voted Republican in a few elections. So he came and started inviting me to the Pawtucket Republican City Committee. And that's where it all started for me at the local level.
Right.
So I've been involved. He came back a few times before I started going. And now that I've been going, I haven't stopped yet. So I've been on the Pawtucket Republican City Committee for several years now. I was vice chair for 2 years. Now I've been the chairman of the Pawtucket Republican City Committee for a year and a half now. And I've had the wonderful opportunity to be able to meet many great people. I've had the opportunity to attempt and to grow the party in Pawtucket. It's had some challenges, but we've had some great times as well. I've had the opportunity, because of being the chairman, to get on some other committees within the city, which has only deepened my love and my desire to continue in the city, to see the city prosper, to see the city do well. But it all started by just simply getting involved. And at the onset, the involvement wasn't great. Go to a meeting once a month, talk about things, talk about the city, discuss the city and state some nights. Of course, we were there solving the world's problems.
Right.
Just nobody has asked us yet, but we're working on that. So just by getting involved and then getting a little more involved, now here I sit running for state senate in Pawtucket District 8.
Right. Now first of all, I mean, you've got a clear commitment to the city. You're raising children in town.
Raising children too.
Right. You bought a home. You do business in town. So this isn't just a stepping stone to something else. This is
No, we are.
You've got roots.
Yes, we are committed. Like I said, we're in the Darlington section. We love where we live at Slater Park, right there. Pawtucket is truly a wonderful city. There are so many things that you wouldn't really even know, but with Slater Park, the carousel there, we're there with the children all the time. We've had many birthday parties at Slater Park carousel. So it is a wonderful city that we have truly kind of moved in and really embraced, and we've had such a great experience there at a time there. Doesn't mean there isn't challenges, of course, like every city and neighborhood and community, but it truly is a great community to live in and raise children in.
Now, talk to me about Pawtucket Restaurant Week, Crash Pawtucket. Some of the features. I mean, the analogy I often draw is that Pawtucket is essentially Brooklyn to Providence's Manhattan, and folks might initially say, well,
that's a great analogy.
Well, but they might initially say,
it really is.
Well, but doesn't that put Pawtucket in a second place? Well, actually, if you know anything about the dynamics of what's happening in New York City right now, Brooklyn is the up and coming city, rising from the Phoenix, if you will, after really a couple of generations of decline. Much of the city's nightlife has shifted to Brooklyn. Much of the city's academic growth is in Brooklyn. Brooklyn, like Pawtucket's got attitude, attitude to spare, and is really the mover and the shaker. And I believe that potential, and I believe that's starting to happen in Pawtucket. But tell me about a couple of those organizations.
So a couple of things. I've had the privilege of being involved with Pawtucket Restaurant Week. Last September, we had our very first Pawtucket Restaurant Week. And as you know, many other cities, here in Providence, Newport, many other cities and towns do restaurant weeks where they highlight their restaurants, kind of do work with all the restaurants to get specials, things that they would want people to know their restaurant for, to get that information out there, and obviously to drive businesses to the restaurants. So I am very small business focused, small business minded. I believe one of the biggest things that we need in Pawtucket is business growth, business development, not just keeping the businesses that we have in Pawtucket, but also growing, being very business friendly. So Restaurant Week, I viewed it as an excellent opportunity to first promote the city. Obviously, we want people within Pawtucket to see and get to know the restaurants that are there, but also to promote it outside of Pawtucket, to have people from Providence, Attleboro, Seekonk, which are just blocks away where we border those two different or several different towns. And so I viewed it as an excellent way to promote the city, but also now to promote these small businesses that are in the city. And as you know, in Providence, there are so many excellent restaurants. I couldn't believe the number of excellent restaurants, local-owned restaurants that we have within the city. Like most Restaurant Weeks, we only focused on non-chain sort of restaurants, so it wasn't your fast foods or your places like that, but your local businesses, your local restaurants, and we had an unbelievable turnout. I wish I had the numbers with me, but we were doing things that I don't think any other city has ever done. We had, when you came in and ordered off of the specific Restaurant Week menu, you were giving a card to fill out about your experience and what you liked, a little bit of feedback, but that also registered you all the restaurants that participated, which our first ever, we had about 30 restaurants participate.
Wow.
Yeah, and our very first one, so we're looking for even more. We're already starting to plan the next Restaurant Week, which will be this coming September. So we collected gift cards from all the restaurants that participated. And by you handing in that survey by dining, that entered you into the drawing. So we were able to give away, and some restaurants gave us multiple cards, we were able to give away a ton of gift certificates to the people that actually participated in Restaurant Week. And then what we also did, we had a corporate sponsor, Navigate Credit Union, who was gracious enough to buy gifts and had, the Restaurant Week logo on it, little cutting boards. So everyone who came and bought off of the Restaurant Week menu received a little cutting board just for coming to Restaurant Week. So we were doing a lot of things that I've participated in many Restaurant Weeks by going and, partaking in the restaurants. But I've never seen a Restaurant Week doing the things that we're doing. And we're looking to do even more now our second year. So it was a great success. We had obviously a great turnout from within the city, but we couldn't believe the number of people who were coming from Providence, Warwick, Smithfield, obviously Attleboro, Seacock, all of the surrounding area, and it was a successful week. We had a wonderful time, and I know I talked to many of the restaurants personally that really said they had a great turnout and they really enjoyed it. So we are definitely looking forward to this year and having another successful Restaurant Week as well. But the reason getting involved, as we said, I was looking to be able to do something to promote the city, because that's kind of, it does both in one shot. You're promoting the city of Pawtucket, but then we're also promoting the small businesses within Pawtucket.
Right, and that actually brings to light a blessing and also somewhat of a challenge to the city of Pawtucket. Outside of a handful of large corporations, most of the businesses operating in that Restaurant Week are hyper-local, very, very locally owned. And when you have that type of concentration of local businesses, you're the first to lead and sometimes the first to bleed. When depending on the feeling of the economy that afternoon, sometimes.
Yes.
And that ties into let's get the elephant out of the if you will, the big issue. You and I met at a Pawtucket Red Sox hearing.
At a Pawtucket Red Sox hearing.
And I just want to give you an opportunity in the half hour, 40 minutes that we've got, to really develop on what your attitude is towards the relationship of the Pawtucket Red Sox with the city of Pawtucket, but at the same time, your feelings regarding the current structure or the current approach to retaining the Pawtucket Red Sox. So I'll let you have the floor.
So yes, we met. It was the State Senate Finance hearing that they had at the Pawtucket High School, where I spoke, you spoke, many people spoke out against the state taxpayer-funded stadium. Many people spoke for a tax-funded new stadium. So how I'm coming at it, and I do not want to be the person who hates the PawSox and wants to see them leave. That's not the case at all. I love the PawSox. I think I said it even that night when I testified. Was my first experience going to a baseball game was a Pawtucket Red Sox game with my dad, with my grandfather, and I had a wonderful experience. I've taken my children to McCoy to see PawSox games. So it's absolutely nothing against the PawSox themselves. They're great. I'm a big Boston Red Sox fan, of course, growing up here in Rhode Island. So that isn't my issue. My issue is this, and I'm looking at it living in the city and now running for a seat in the city, obviously at a state level. I'm looking at as a resident of Pawtucket.
Right.
Our portion, Pawtucket's portion, and things may have changed. They've kind of reworked the deal a little bit, but general, Pawtucket's portion for the stadium is $15 million. Being a resident of Pawtucket, paying taxes in Pawtucket, paying pretty high taxes in Pawtucket for the perceived what we're getting in return.
Right.
I just don't see how, I mean, I've sat in many meetings, I've sat in City Hall where we're talking, there's just no money for this, there's no money for this, there's no money for that. But yet, we're gonna find $15 million, just the city itself, let alone the contribution from the state, to be able to give to the Pawtucket Red Sox. I just don't see how that's sustainable, how we as a city can pay, and I know that's the apprehension with submitting it to the House, is they're worried about Pawtucket paying, because if Pawtucket doesn't pay, now the state backstops Pawtucket. And now Pawtucket, the state would have the whole burden, not just their portion of it. So that's where I'm having an issue. And I'll tell you, I'm open. I want to learn. You know, I want to be educated. I'm open to speaking to all different people, hearing what they have to say. And now, being involved in this race, I have been out there knocking on doors. We had a primary. I'm not sure if we had history in Pawtucket with our primary. We had a Republican primary. It was the first Republican primary in 54 years in the city of Pawtucket. So I am thrilled to have been part of that, and I'm happy to be the one going to the general election now on April 3rd. But as I was out campaigning, as I was out knocking on, even starting with getting signatures, what an experience that was.
Right.
I said this, I was in a meeting earlier this week, and I jokingly said, you know, it's too bad the person didn't resign in the spring, summer, or fall. We had to resign in January, so I was out February knocking on doors when it's dark at 4 o'clock. But it was, I've learned a ton. It was a great experience. But out knocking on doors, getting signatures, passing out information. I'm obviously very interested in hearing what the people have to say. I obviously know what I think, but I want to know what are the people of District 8, what do they think about this? So I would ask them, you know, what do you like about the city? What don't you like about the city? And of course, the number one thing is the PawSox.
Right.
That's the first thing that came up pretty much across the board with every single person I talked to, with the exception of a few people that were in the medical industry who, of course, brought up the hospital.
Right.
But that we can talk about. So the PawSox is the number one thing that come up. And the vast majority, again, that I spoke with, and I have knocked and spoken and reached out to many, many people within the district through the primary and throughout now the general election. The vast majority, same as me, want to see the PawSox stay, but they want to see them stay at McCoy. There is such a confusion of what's wrong with McCoy. Why can't they stay at McCoy? Why do we have to put all of this money into this brand new stadium when we already have a stadium? And then what are you going to do with the stadium that we have? Right. But overwhelmingly, the question is, why can't they stay at McCoy? And I mean, I think that is a very legitimate question of why they can't stay at McCoy. If we need to fix it up, if we have to do something with that, okay, let's do something with fixing it up and keep them there in Pawtucket, in McCoy.
Now, what's interesting is in the first part of our conversation, and if you're just joining us, by the way, you're listening to the Coalition. Nathan Luciano is joining us. He is running for Senate District 8 in a special election. He's the Republican nominee. I think we can all agree that the primary process, which involved 5 candidates,
Yes.
certainly generated a great deal of mostly positive conversation that were, as some would say, issues orientated. Even though one candidate seemed to continually go nuclear, despite his supposedly military discipline.
I was very happy to be on the
Other side.
Republican side where Richard and I spoke, got along. We had a great primary.
Right, and it was issues focused.
Yes.
On one hand, you've got this patchwork quilt of great small businesses across the city, facing very high property taxes, a challenging economy in Rhode Island,
Yes.
a competition with nearby Massachusetts businesses who
Yes.
are able to operate at an exponentially lower cost. And at the same time, every candidate will always give the usual, and fill in the blank, standing headline. Did you know that most job growth is in small business? But then we'll turn around and do things that confound us. At the same time, you've got some principal players in the nascent Pawtucket success story, all of a sudden, I'll call it abandoning ship. The Guild Brewery has decided to close its doors. You've got the hospital, and we can spend more time than time will allow on how important a community hospital is. To the city of
Unbelievable.
Pawtucket, right?
And not just the city, but the surrounding areas, because
Right.
the people I spoke with, nurses at Rhode Island, Miriam had said now because Pawtucket Memorial isn't servicing that community, now everybody's going there and they're overwhelmed and bogged down.
Right.
So it affects more than just Pawtucket.
Right, and Miriam I've been at Miriam. It's a wonderful institution, but it's not what you would traditionally call an emergency room
Yes,
style.
it is not a
environment.
Rhode Island Hospital Trauma Center.
Right.
Correct.
At the same time, another one of the linchpins of the downtown and, like I said, the nation Pawtucket success story was, of course, the GAM. And the GAM has decided not to close. The GAM is successful, but to seek other fields to play in. To their credit, I think they did it gracefully, but at the same time, gone baby gone.
Yes.
At the same time, and this is my confusion, you would have, not you, but there are people in Pawtucket leaders, who would have taxpayer money subsidized, and let's leave out the notion that it's going to pay for itself. No, it's not going to pay for itself.
I don't.
If you ran a business in your business, if you didn't have to pay, if you collected sales taxes and could treat that as revenue, yeah, your business would be very profitable.
Very.
Very.
Yeah.
So you've got the real prospect in the Blackstone Valley of these wonderful local Pawtucket restaurants having to act in direct competition with a state-subsidized entertainment facility right literally in their backyard.
Yes.
Is that fair?
Not at all. And this is my point, and this is what I've said to many people that I've spoken to. The Pawtucket Red Sox, it's promoted, it's billed as a family-friendly activity, which I agree with. I'm a family man. I have 2 young daughters. It is the perfect thing to take my children to. So, when we decided to go to a game, we went to a few games this summer. When we decided to go to a game, we have to hurry up, wrangle everybody in. We get to the stadium, and of course, the children, the part of being there is they want to get the hot dog. They want to get the ice cream in the baseball helmet.
Right.
That's the crowning jewel of them going.
Right.
Which I trip over them for the rest of the year as they continue to play with them. But they're there because they want to get the hot dogs, get the ice cream, get the things, do things. They're in the park. Now, when the game is over, 9 o'clock or later, 2 little children, I'm running home, getting them in bed, or we may not have even made it through the entire game, as many people with children know, which is no problem at all, but get home, get them put to bed. So, by having a PawSox brand new stadium there, I'm not going to a restaurant in the city before the game.
No.
The design is for you to eat there at the stadium
That's the whole point.
and drink there at the stadium.
Right.
So when I'm leaving this game with my 2 young children, I'm certainly not going to a bar afterwards where now these local restaurants and bars are getting business from the stadium. It's all designed to be kept and paid and your money in the stadium.
Right.
So I don't see how, by having this there, that is going to boom the business around the stadium.
And at the same time, the traffic generated by people visiting the stadium will make it near well impossible for businesses in the immediate vicinity to see anything other than foot traffic from literally
Going to
people
and
on the block.
And exactly, so if I were going to say, like a brand new bookstore just opened, I'm not sure if you saw that. Beautiful bookstore just opened right in the corner of Main Street.
Yep.
I was there actually last Friday morning for an event. It's incredible. Definitely check that out. But if it's a game day, and I said, oh, I'm going to run over there, I'm probably not going to go over there because I know I'm not going to fight with traffic, try to park, and try to get in there because the stadium will be directly across the street from that bookstore.
Right, and at the same time, if you're very much a working Rhode Island family, where two people, society in a sense, the government in Rhode Island creates an environment with all these high taxes and all these high costs that two people literally have to work.
Absolutely.
Not to buy that condo down in Charlestown, not to get that third car, not to get season tickets for the Patriots, but literally in some cases to keep the lights on.
To survive,
right?
Absolutely.
Your limited disposable income again is tossed up in the air for competition with a state subsidized facility. So if you got that extra $30 a week to spend to take your bride out or take the little kiddos out, and listen, I have children, you have children. Sometimes that's what it comes down to.
It does.
Right? So you're
Absolutely.
you're couch surfing to get money to take them out. If you go to the PawSox Stadium, which is the Brighter Brights, Whiter Whites PawSox Stadium, you're not going to any one of those great restaurants.
No, you're not. I absolutely agree.
No.
So you had a great point of it paying for itself. Again, and I've said this time and time again, and this isn't something new. Now that I'm a candidate, this isn't something new that I'm bringing up. Like I said, we met long before there was ever a Senate seat that was open.
Right.
I've had this position since the beginning as the chairman of the Pawtucket Republican Party. But you hit it on the head. If this was going to be, they're calling it, this will be the catalyst to drive businesses, then why don't we put it out there and get businesses to commit? No one's committed. And I would say maybe down the road, 5-10 years, maybe you will have some businesses move in. And that wouldn't surprise me. But how are we going to pay for it for year 1 until year 10? They talk about, I'll just do interest only. Now you're accumulating that 15 or on the state 38 million is quickly turning into $100 million over 30 years. I had a conversation with somebody that there's a 30-year loan, so the initial investment may not sound like a lot, but now you're going to end up paying almost $100 million for a stadium. That I could potentially, my youngest daughter is 4, in 30 years, I could potentially be bringing my grandchildren to a game and the stadium isn't paid for yet. To me, that's just crazy.
It's crazy talk. No, obviously I'm with you 100% on this. And let me just ask you the broader philosophical question. Does the government have any place interfering in private markets?
That's a tough question. I don't think so. I mean, if you have, like they talk about, this is a great deal, they've gone on and on talking about how great this deal is. I used to be a business banker.
Yeah.
I did business lending. That's what I did as a career. Until now I've switched over doing the mortgage side on residential. But I did business lending. If this was such a great deal, then the bank should be in line to do this deal for the owners, but they're not. Right. So that might tell me, with my background of a business banker, getting in, knowing businesses, knowing what banks want to lend to, they're not there. They're not in line.
There is a raft of local banks who don't need to be named at the hearings, all publicly applauding it, yet at the same time, it's clear that this is, while it's a significant investment for a community to be in, that these local banks could in fact syndicate the financing amongst themselves and keep all the lucrative profits for themselves, which I think you and I are certainly not the eat the rich crowd. We believe in capitalism, and
yes, absolutely.
I will always say capitalism is the mechanism by which the individual can reach their full human potential. So why not?
I mean, my theory is anytime you're going to do a business loan, no matter how big or small, well, for the most part, there has to be personal guarantees. So these owners are going to have to personally guarantee some stuff, and they're not wanting to do that.
Well, and that ultimately, let's tie it back to the 38 Studios situation. Citizens Bank, my understanding, had a PG from Mr. Schilling. Okay. And exercised it appropriately. The state of Rhode Island did not. Because why do we need PG? We don't need those stinking PGs here. Yeah. Whereas you and I, if we went for a small SBA loan to start a little local gym of a restaurant or a pub,
forget it.
Forget about
the house,
it.
Everything's on the block.
The kids.
No.
I'm with you 100%. Folks, if you're just joining us, it's a highly compressed show. It is my hope to have Nathan come in again. Nathan Luciano is the Senate GOP nominee, if you will, for the Senate District 8 special election. So in the 10 minutes or so we've got left, let's go down some issues. I'll play issues. I'll throw something out, and you just tell me what you think the right approach is.
Perfect. If I don't like it, can I pass?
Yes, you
Okay.
can. Okay, absolutely. The question to me is that, okay, I'm a nattering nabob of negativity. I'm a naysayer. The question comes to me, well, what do you do? If you were to say the first thing that you should do to make the business climate more attractive for individual entrepreneurs to come to the city, what do you think the first thing they should do?
The first thing that's been talked about, and I'm sure many people have said the same thing, is we have to look at regulations. I know just a very simple one that has been brought up, and I know this for a fact, again, doing business banking, running into business tax returns, seeing this, is we have a inventory tax here in Rhode Island. So we have some great companies, huge furniture companies, that warehouse nothing in Rhode Island because all of that inventory would be taxed in Rhode Island, but it's not taxed in Massachusetts.
Right.
So where are all these warehouses? They're in Massachusetts.
Right.
So we've got some great mills in Pawtucket that could probably be some really nice warehouses, but yet we're not going to fill them because they're going to be taxed on the inventory. They can go 3 blocks. The nature of our state is we have to be competitive. My house is 3 blocks behind me is Seekonk, and probably 5 blocks is Attleboro.
Right.
So we have to be competitive where we are,
Right.
with the proximity of other states. And so that's just one basic example of we're falling short in the state.
Right. So then the next point that we thrown back at, I agree with 100%. I also believe the sales tax. If you wanted to break glass, add water, emergency, you lower the sales tax, and you've got instant economic activity. I mean, almost lower the sales tax, and here come the cars. The question, of course, is then, how does the city and how does the state pay for the absence of that revenue?
Well, again, if you're now being more business friendly, you would hope that businesses are going to come, and you're getting that business revenue now for taxes, all the different things that come along with having a business.
Right.
And to me, one of the big things is we have a wonderful city in Pawtucket. Great families, the neighborhood. I can't get over in my neighborhood the people out walking, dogs, their children. They're out all the time. It's incredible. So we have a great community there in Pawtucket. And being on the mortgage side by day, I see where you have people that have good jobs come into a community, buying houses. Now your property value is going up. I know a great way that they got taxes. They just reassessed my house, and it went up about $50,000.
Right.
Which is great, except I can't. I don't know if I'd sell it for that. Would be able to sell it for that, but they're going to collect taxes on that. But again, that wouldn't be an issue if taxes were in check.
Right.
And so your values are higher. So now you see the value of paying that in taxes because you're in a wonderful area and because you have these great businesses or a great job right there in the town, in the neighborhood.
Of course, then we need to talk about the hospital situation. The Pawtucket Fire Department has got a rather provocative Twitter feed under the guise of their local union.
Okay. Yes.
Interestingly enough, the current knock against most municipal employees is that all they're in it is for the money. I've watched this Twitter feed over a considerable amount of time. I've had a couple of conversations with folks who work there off the record. They are screaming not for more money for themselves personally, but for resources. So particularly in the light of a post-hospital era, that they can effectively serve. In the conversations I've had, and I've watched them, I see no artifice, I see no personal selfishness. I see a group of firemen and women who are pointing out the challenges that they've got because of lack of support. What are your thoughts about the Pawtucket Fire Department and station closings, things like that?
So I mean, to me, public safety, firemen, policemen are incredible. We absolutely need them, and not just because we need them to come when we have a problem, but we need them in our community. They do wonderful things in the community. So I'm very much a supporter, obviously, of fire, police, and I'm a huge supporter of we have to keep our community and our neighborhood safe. And that starts with fire, rescue, police. And so by closing stations, by closing hospitals, now instead of them, if there's an accident or a problem, an emergency, them just driving 2 or 3 minutes down the road, now they're having to go all the way to Providence or somewhere else further. Now they're spread even thinner than they already are, because I'm sure they're already very much overworked for what they're doing. So it does create a host of problems that isn't just, like I was saying before, that just isn't, okay, a hospital closed or a fire station closed and we lost a couple more jobs. It's a lot more involved than that. It's a lot more involved than just losing a few jobs here and there.
The schools.
Schools.
There have been some significant upgrades in a handful
There
of
have, I will say, yes.
Right. But at the same time, the educational environment and this speaks right to your state role as well as, if you will, acting as a shepherd to the Pawtucket local level. What do we do about education in the state? I mean, is it time for more choice? Is it time for more alternatives?
I definitely wouldn't be opposed to more choice, to I'm losing my train of thought here with the where you can choose all the waivers.
Right.
Yeah.
Vouchers, things
vouchers, exactly. I would support things like that because first, we've made great strides in Pawtucket. There are several schools. They're fixing, I believe, the 3rd school this year with doing a great upkeep. They just did the one that's actually right near my house that opened this school year, part of Burns, and they've done a beautiful job. Yes, there's a lot that need to come. There are some that have been closed for several days at a time because there's no heat and things like that. That is something that should be top priority. Children shouldn't be in a school where there's a fear of not having heat that day. So that definitely has to be a top priority. And I believe it is. I hope it is in the city. But it's things like that we desperately need to look at and get taken care of and get fixed. But as far as I've had the opportunity to meet many teachers in the city, and they are great people. They do care. They work very hard, but they're working with very limited resources. So that is something that I have definitely talked about in this campaign, that I would love to be able to see a lot more help for our teachers, a lot more involvement, and if that means more parent involvement, whatever that may unfold or come to be, we absolutely have to help our teachers. Because we do have some great teachers in the city that do truly care about the children and about education, but they need help. They're saying we just need help. We need things like books, pencils, just basic stuff that we need to be able to help with. Obviously, the maintenance and the upkeep of schools across the state has been an issue, but I know I've heard of different bonds and different programs that are there that I think we do have to take advantage of, because this is something very important. I mean, we're talking about not just, obviously it's something near and dear to me because I have small children, but we're talking about the future of our state, the future of our city, with these children going to school. And by them being in a good environment, a learning environment that will help them do even better there in school. So we absolutely have to support and help come alongside of our teachers and help them, as they are doing a great job, but they're doing as much as they can with as much as they have. So that is something that I think we do have to look at. And, as much as I think spending money on a stadium is crazy, these are things where we do have to spend some money in, is education. Definitely.
Now, in the couple minutes we have left, what is Senator Luciano, what area, if he had his pick, if you will, as if the Democratic regime is going to afford you that pick.
Yes.
But should you have your pick in terms of committee, what area of the state Senate would you seek to work on?
Well, I would like, with my background in finance and things, I would like to be involved in economy things. So maybe a finance committee.
I hear there's an opening now.
There may be an opening for a Republican on that committee.
Yikes.
But we won't talk about that.
How about those Red Sox?
Yeah. Those PawSox. No. So something like that definitely interests me, just because of my background and because of the field that I've been in and have been in. I think that would be a great thing to get involved in and be able to help, and hopefully make a difference. I got involved. I'll tell you just very quickly. I got involved because, like I said, I moved to the city, and voting in Pawtucket, I was so tired of voting and everyone running unopposed. So I got involved because I said I don't want to see election after election people winning because they were unopposed. You know, if there were a primary, if they won the primary, they won the election. And just people run unopposed all the time. So that's why I did get involved initially in the Republican committee in Pawtucket. Now, as the chairman, my goal, or the primary goal of the committee, is to get people elected, is to find people to run. So that's my goal, is to get people to run. Well, I guess I couldn't find anybody, so here I am. No, I desperately want to run for the city and for the people. I think, so I got involved because I was so tired. So to me, now in this special election, the people of District 8 have a choice. So I consider that a victory, because that's why I got into this. That's why I started doing this, was because I wanted to give the people a choice. I didn't want just go in and people running unopposed every single election. So now the people of District 8 have a choice. What they will do with that choice is entirely up to them. Hopefully you will vote for me, because I am committed to Pawtucket. I'm committed to working hard. One thing that I continuously talk about on my website is that I want to be an advocate for the city. I appreciate Senator Doyle for seeing a problem and stepping down, but we went a very long time without any advocacy. This whole PawSox thing went on, and nothing, he was nowhere to be found. So we need an advocate for the city, somebody who is committed and dedicated to working hard, and I am committed to working hard for the people in the city of Pawtucket, definitely.
Excellent. How can folks, it's hammer time.
That's
the next
right.
week and a half, this is
Week and a half.
Special elections, this is when people all of a sudden wake up to the notion that, yikes, there's
Yes.
an election.
I've gotten several messages just today, actually, but earlier throughout the week. So please follow me. You can follow my campaign on Facebook. Facebook, obviously, facebook.com/Nathan4RI-Senate. And then my website is very simple, www.Nathan4Senate.com. Very simple.
There you go. And in our pre-show publicity, we used a link, I believe, to your Twitter page.
Yes.
Where folks can find you as well.
And all the information's there.
And all the information's there. And of course, the mother's milk of all politics, even when you're running a hard-fought independent campaign, is of course money.
Yes.
Folks who are likely to support Nathan need to understand that campaigns cost money.
Couldn't believe how much money they cost being my first time around.
Right. And largely campaigns like this are self-funded. So again, let's talk about the fairness word. If folks want change, it's not good enough to simply grouse about, moan and complain, take to social media. They need to break out of their comfort zone and support people to affect change. Yes. And the way you do that is I'm sure you've got opportunities where people can walk with you, work the polls for you.
Yes.
Also, a little bit of money wouldn't hurt either, because that's what caught, the signs. People constantly in this state, I'm going to take over the mic for a second here, because this is not,
Please.
This is not coming from you. All right. People constantly complain that, well, there's no one running against them. Well, who is no one? It's up to you, to you, all of us, the collective you, the royal we, to step up at some point. And it can be done in any one of a number of ways. It can be done financially. It can be done by shoe leather. And it can be done at any level that the individual feels comfortable in. You have the right to vote.
Absolutely.
What you don't have the right to is complain in absentia. If your whole focus is to simply sit back and wait for someone else to do the work, I'll just leave that hanging. It was absolutely wonderful to have you on.
It was a pleasure to be here.
It's a week and a half left. Keep us focused. Maybe I'll have you call in next week and
definitely
give an update. Again, how can folks find you?
Facebook, Nathan4RI-Senate, and online, Nathan4Senate.com.
All right. Again, best of luck to you. Also, I want to folks taking the time to run, to extending themselves on a very, very personal level, both financially in terms of the time away from their family. And if they win, there's always parting gifts. If you win, congratulations, have you won? You will now spend the next 2 years of your life listening to people like me. Imagine the fun. But folks, regardless of your political background, your affinity, your choices, the direction you take, we need to recognize folks like Nathan and the people who may be running with him and running against him as the real patriots in the society, because it's at the hyper-local, the school board, the town water board, the town council, the mayor, rep, and state senate. This has a more profound impact on Rhode Islanders' lives than Donald Trump, Shelley Whitehouse, Senator Greed, all of them will ultimately ever have. It's these folks that are really the heroes in Rhode Island. So congratulations, and thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break now. Literally from the opposite side of the bench, Lauren Nidell is going to Skype in a few moments and bring us up at a quick course on up to speed on what's happening nationally, particularly with our two senators. Yikes. Folks, you are listening to The Coalition on the Worldwide Coalition Media Network, broadcasting here at the worldwide headquarters. The Go Local Live Broadcast Center at 90 Way Boston Street in the heart of the city we love. Facebook.com/The Coalition. On the Mighty Mighty Twitter at coalitionradio.us, and of course at coalitionradio.us. I think I got that mixed up. Folks, stay tuned. We'll be right back.